When you try your best but you don't succeed.
Natural disasters have had a huge effect on the economy in the world. 2011 began with flooding in Queensland, Australia. This disaster caused $7.3 billion in economic losses. Miguel Llanos, a reporter for MSNBC News, has said that the cost to recover from natural disasters has shown an increase in the last few years and is still growing, and will most likely continue to grow. The earthquake and tsunami in Japan last March had a death toll of 15,000 and around 7,000 people were never found. The tornadoes in the south caused much damage and left many people homeless. Twisters have claimed nearly 600 lives just this year, and along with severe storms, are the leading cause for money lost in our economy. 2011 is already the most costly year for natural disasters.
As a decade, the 1990s were filled with many natural disaster events. Starting off with the eruption of Mount Pinatubo in 1991, the Philippine volcano blew its top and took 450 lives. Homes were destroyed, displacing thousands. Airports closed and flights worldwide were canceled. 1991 proved to be a disastrous year. In that one year, there was a cyclone in Bangladesh that killed more than 100,000 people. It caused an outbreak in cases of waterborne illness. Millions of homes were destroyed. In one day, 4 tornadoes hit Kansas and Oklahoma. Now let's skip a few years. In 1994, strong winds and rain killed a few hundred in Haiti. In 1996, the Yangtze River in China began to overflow. The residents had to spend 500 tons of the country's rice supply to absorb the water of the overflowing banks. In the U.S., in 1998, tornadoes caused record property damage in Florida. This is also the year that Hurricane Mitch struck several Central American countries and took over 17,000 lives. The United States was ordered to send $66 million in aid, along with $8 million from Europe and $11 million from Spain. 1999 floods plagued Venezuela. An earthquake in Taiwan destroyed property and killed civilians throughout the country. I chose to focus on a main event of the 90s. In 1995, catastrophic floods hit the country of Korea. Though Korea's crops are already struggling to survive, this completely wiped out the crops. With destruction of crops follows less food, which follows up with hunger, ending in starvation. Korea soon became known to be in a state of famine, or period in which food becomes very, very scarce. Hundreds of thousands of people died of starvation and disease. The Korean economy crashed, unable to import, export, or even make goods altogether. Many starving people became too sick to work, further pushing the economy under the water. Many people lacked income. Gas, coal, and other heat sources became rare.
The world's most secretive state has offered a rare glimpse of life inside its borders in a bid for help. North Korea is again facing a failed harvest, and along with it, malnutrition and starvation. The country is appealing to Western nations for urgent food aid. North Asia correspondent Mark Willesee reports, and a warning this story contains some disturbing images.
They're the weakest, most vulnerable members of society. And in North Korea, the children are always the first to starve. But at this orphanage in the country's west, the doctor doesn't dare blame the regime.
Because of the flooding, the children are suffering from diarrhoea and digestive problems. The flooding is the reason they're not recovering faster.
This footage was shot by AlertNet, a humanitarian news service run by Reuters, which was allowed into the country by the North Korean regime. Accompanying them, a medical team from the aid group Doctors Without Borders, which found about half of these children were dangerously malnourished. This is why people in North Korea are slowly starving. The massive summer floods have stripped the crops of their sustenance.
We had heavy rain for 2 months from July, and that's why the maize couldn't receive enough nutrients to grow properly.
At a nearby hospital, more young victims of the failed harvest. Low on medical supplies, the doctors have resorted to crude ointments and powders to treat diseases caused by malnutrition.
The natural disasters have forced the people to live on potatoes and corn. Because people don't have proper nutrition, the number of inpatients has increased.
Reliant on diminishing sources of aid, the North Korean regime has reacted to the failed harvest by slashing food rations to just 200 grams per person per day.
So we're looking at a situation where, in particular, young children and their mothers are very vulnerable to malnutrition.
After an unsatisfying dinner, these orphans huddle together under the watchful eye of the dear leader to sit through yet another patriotic film. They may have empty bellies, but these children are fed endless servings of propaganda. Mark Willisey, ABC News.
A single radio call on the USGS on May 18, 1980, only saying Vancouver, Vancouver, this is it, started a mad revelation, all unveiled by the eruption of Mount St. Helens. With a cloud of ash destroying over 230 acres of wild habitats and magma rising to Spirit Lake's water level by 60 feet, Mount St. Helens was a devastating blow to all of America. This eruption being earlier predicted, the scientists anticipating this were waiting for fresh volcanic ash to find further insight on how volcanoes work. They were always ready for an eruption call so they could suit up and get test samples of new volcanic material. Not only did Mount St. Helens destroy over 400 acres of land in all, she broke avalanche records with an ease. With debris tumbling down into the town, cars were buried and lives were lost. Mount St. Helens was a disaster in every way and devastated hundreds of families all over the nation.
But you can't sleep, stuck in river.